Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hi, thank you and welcome to the Persistence Payoff Show. We're here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm your host, Kimberly Schafer. I'm on my own journey of persistence. I'm a first-time entrepreneur and inventor. I invented the ring thing, which is a waterproof ring holder, and it's been a fantastic journey so far. What I'm learning is that for all of us, persistence changes over time. We might focus on something at one time in our life, and then that changes, and the ways that we persist change. So I'm really interested in talking to people from all walks of life about the role that persistence has played for them, and learn about their hows and their whys. And I'm finding it very inspiring. So I hope that you do too. That brings me to our guest today, Linnea Mack, who is a professional swimmer. Linnea has been swimming since she was a young girl. She had a storied and very decorated career at UCLA. She was a member of Team USA Swimming, and she swam for multiple seasons with the International Swim League, which was a professional swim league that was very innovative. She's now turned to coaching at both the collegiate level as well as all the way down to young children. And most interestingly right now is she has developed a yoga program specifically for swimmers. So I'm very interested in hearing about all of that, including her current program. And most importantly to me, Linnea is my niece. And so I've had the joy of watching her journey this whole time, and I look forward to continue watching it as it develops. So please welcome Linnea to the show. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for being here.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So you're in Australia, so I know that it's early morning there, so I really appreciate you being here. I want to talk about your journey that brought you to where you are, but I'd actually like to start with talking about where you are right now and to hear more about your current program, the Yoga for Swimmers, and how did you develop it, why, and how does it help swimmers specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, yoga for me has been, interestingly, a kind of a parallel as I've moved through my own swim journey. And it was funny, I was kind of tracking it as I was thinking about today's show, and I was like, I think it actually tracks pretty well with how kind of my purpose and kind of my relationship with swimming has evolved. I kind of notice a parallel and a mirroring of how my relationship with yoga has evolved over the years. And so, yeah, it definitely, like, yoga for me started off on a very purely physical level. It was something that was helping with my swimming, and it was just kind of like a tool in addition to what I was doing in the pool. And then as I got further and further along kind of into the professional levels, I started to see how yoga was helping me mentally. And so it was more about the kind of the flow state aspect of it, the learning how to stay present in the moment, the breath, and just kind of like being able to show up fully in any single moment, kind of no matter what the pressure or the expectations or what the meet was. And then I kind of noticed a shift more recently into seeing how yoga was more just kind of a way of being and a lifestyle practice. And so with that, I kind of was able to step back from the swimming arena and the competitive space and just see like what an amazing resource and what an amazing tool this is to be able to combine the mind-body aspect of yoga with swimming. That's also a mind-body practice. To be able to bring the two together and just like really elevate the experience of what's going on in the pool and just kind of add another layer to what to what I'm doing and to what other people are doing. And so my kind of goal and my hope with it is to be able to share some of the things that I've learned along the way, and hopefully, all the way from club swimmers who, again, maybe they're just, figuring out their balance and it's going to help them get off the blocks a little bit easier or be a little bit more connected through the core, all the way to master swimmers who, kind of same thing. It's like learning how to activate their bodies in a way to prevent injury as they start to and increase mobility over the years, along with open water swimmers, just getting in that flow state, staying in rhythm. So really it's touching on all these little bits of community that I've been a part of over the years. And I'm just really excited to bring what I've learned with the two and like my experience with the two, swimming and yoga into these spaces. So I'm just really excited to start to share that and provide some education resources however I can into helping people with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Before I ask my next question, I'm just going to ask if you can just adjust your camera a little bit, getting your heads a little bit cut off. We want to see all of you. So that's great. Thank you. Yeah. So with yoga for swimmers, are there specific moves and specific yoga poses that you're focusing on more than others that are more germane to swimmers?
I mean, in reality, right, like swimming is a full body sport. It's a full body exercise. So, and as is yoga. But yes, I'm trying to really, and there's so many different yoga postures. There's so many different styles of practice. So I'm speaking to the style that has worked for me that I've used over the years, which is more of a vinyasa, more of a yin, more recently a little bit more of an Ashtanga style yoga practice, but bringing in those elements and deepening my own practice, like learning more about the different postures, learning how it relates to the fascia, how the different muscle groups work, and how the different kind of energy flows throughout the body through meridians and all the different layers. So I'm definitely, as I get deeper into that, I can kind of start to pick and choose like, oh, this would be really beneficial in times that, swimmers are going through this mentally or physically, and start to kind of piece together things like that. But I think, yes, to the point of within the different demographics, definitely have kind of a more catered structure and definitely more specific intention with what we're doing within the yoga practice for sure.
Yeah. All right. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And also, I've seen that the USA Swimming Network is picking up your program. And so they are broadcasting it to the USA Swimming group and network. So that's a fantastic way to get started. And I can really understand the benefit of that, because you're right. Like, I imagine as a swimmer that, there's so much focus on time and getting off the block and planning all these things and how to be present in the moment. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily seem logical that those two things would be related, but I can see how learning to be in the moment actually helps you be a little faster and help clear your mind of maybe any psychological block could come up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think with that too, the rest portion of the practice is something that more and more people are picking up on. I think just like across sport in general, just how important that recovery piece is. And when you're trying to compete at a high level for any sport, really, for anything, I think in life, but you want to just really kind of maximize the experience, maximize your performance, right? So being able to recover faster and be able to show up more frequently at your best and be able to like really push those limits more often, the more adaptation you get and kind of the further along and the faster you're going to get. And I think that's something that I really struggled with as we got more into the pro side of things. Like there was just this, and there's this incredible drive, right, that these athletes have of like, you need to do more, you have to go faster. There's kind of this like forward thinking, like go, 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 always wanting to do more. And I think what yoga has helped me with, and I hope to share, is to create those spaces in between the doing to allow the adaptations, to allow the rest to start to really happen, so that when you do come back to the practice, you actually are able to get more out of it. And you can show up a little bit more full and just like increase your capacity. But that takes time to slow down. And it's really hard when it feels like you're not, doing anything. I'm sitting here in a forward fold for 5 minutes. I'm not being productive. But again, I think that's something both for athletics and just outside of that we definitely just, I think, need more of in life. So, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% support that. I agree with you. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about your own journey. So you started swimming as a young girl, and can you just talk to us a little bit about what drew you to swimming and what kept you with it over the years? What was it that really stuck with you?
Well, I honestly joined swimming because my best friend in third grade was going to swim practices after school, and I just wanted to spend more time with her. So it's like, well, if I just go to swim practice with you, we can hang out more. And that was great. But honestly, like from that, I formed just a really tight-knit community on that team, and that kind of became my space. It was somewhere where I kind of had the control of what I was doing. And I think as a young girl with a lot of energy, that was like a really good outlet in that way for me. And it's honestly kind of continued to evolve and keep that same kind of core connection piece. I think no matter where I've been over the years, moving into high school, that was kind of like, that was my core, that was my community. Same into college, like my swim team, those were your girls, that was your rock. All the way into pro, like those were your people. As we traveled internationally, no matter where you went, it's like I could always kind of find the swimmers, and that was always like my connection and my community piece. Same moving out to Hawaii, hooked right into the open water swimming, and it's like just this love for water that I think brings us together. And I think that's kind of what, I don't want to say like what's been the why over the years, but that's definitely been a component of like what I love so much about swimming is just the type of people that show up on the side of the pool deck or that show up at the beach in the early mornings to go jump in the water. So I think just getting to share that love of just that freedom of how weightless you feel, you're tuned out from any sort of like external distractions, and it's just like you're really present in this space. So I just really enjoyed getting to share that with people over the years, and that continues to evolve as I go as well.
Yeah, that actually raises a question for me. As you were talking about being weightless and in the water. So like when I go work out, many people are wearing headsets, right? And they're listening to things, listening to podcasts or listening to whatever they're listening to while they're exercising. Does that happen in swimming much? Now, like, has technology advanced so that people can have earbuds in and listen to something while they're swimming? Or is it really one of those sports where you really have the quiet of it while you're swimming?
I know there are these like underwater headphones that you can have, and I do see people with them sometimes. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I think the kind of the purity of being away from all that and being able to just absorb the sounds and just being like really in the element is something that I love so much. But I mean, it's anyone's practice, right? You can kind of like make it whatever it is. But I think especially, when you're out in the ocean, I don't think you don't have headphones in, you're not, that's just not quite the feel out there. But yeah, it is interesting to see those people in, and I try not to judge. It's, like I said, their practice, it is whatever. But I definitely think that's something really unique about the experience. Like you're not on your screen, you're just away from all that for a little bit. And so I kind of hope that continues to be a space for people to have that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, again, looking back, you went through a time when you were diagnosed with scoliosis. I'll just mention that we are a very tall family. I'm 6'1", you are over 6 feet. Your brother is 6'5", so we're just tall people with big spines, long spines. And you were diagnosed with scoliosis as a girl, and I believe you wore a brace for quite a while. And I'm curious to know, how was that for you? And did other kids make fun of you for it? What was that experience like?
Yeah, so I think it was third grade. So it was actually right around the time I started swimming. So again, it's interesting to kind of track that parallel, how the yoga and swimming kind of played part. But yeah, it was just like a random test in third grade. They came in and just kind of were checking all the girls, I think especially girls, young girls. And it did turn out that I had a pretty severe curve. I can't remember the exact degrees at the time. But it was bad enough that the doctors wanted to go in and put a metal rod up my spine. And just having started swimming and being, a gymnast at the time too, that was just not really going to be an option. And so my mom took the time to do some research and found a woman in the Bay Area who taught yoga for scoliosis. And so I was doing one-on-ones with her, just like super specific to how my back was, trying to at least get the curve from, or prevent it from getting worse. And then, in conjunction with that, I did wear a back brace. Luckily, it was only at night. I think I maybe threw a little bit of a fit about that. I was like, I don't want to be going into middle school wearing this thing. I mean, it was like pretty from the hips all the way up to the shoulders. It was like a big kind of like hard casing. But yeah, I wore that for probably like 3 years, all throughout middle school, maybe even into high school for some time. And again, with the idea of just like, it was never going to correct it, but at least as I was growing, it was going to prevent it from getting worse. But that's something that I can tell if I stop, or like over the years, if I stop doing yoga or being as consistent with that practice, I can tell that, things start to hurt. And it's just like, it keeps me honest, I would say, with both swim and yoga practice for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I'm glad that that nobody bullied you for it, because I think that can happen. And so I'm happy you didn't experience that. Yeah. I'm curious to know, as we sort of move through your swimming journey. So at UCLA, you were, and maybe still are, the most decorated swimmer in UCLA swimming history, I believe. And you set 9 school records, and of your 4 individual records, 3 of those still stand, and it's been some years. So you had a really incredible career there. And then from there, you moved into the pros. And so I'm curious to know, how did that come to be with moving into the pros? And was that, I imagine in the pros, you're still focused on time and placing, but was there a different quality that you encountered as a
Yeah, I mean, in college, right, you're a student athlete, so you're still balancing school and academics along with what you're doing in the water. I feel very fortunate to have had a very supportive team at UCLA. And I remember super vividly finishing out my last meet, my summer of my senior year, and just crying, not so much out of sadness, but just kind of like, wow, that was, such an incredible experience. Like, I can't believe it's over. Like, that can't just be it. I don't want this to end. And I think there's a part of me, like, deep down that knew I wasn't quite done yet. And I didn't know what that meant or what that looked like. And I remember having a conversation at the Indiana pool with Madison Kennedy, and my coach Cindy at UCLA. She brought her over, and she's like, Madison's been a veteran. She's kind of done swimming differently. She kind of took it her own path and really made the journey and made the process her own, and was really authentic in that. And so she was like, Madison, come over here and talk to Linnea. And I remember Madison talking to me, and she's like, let it go for a little bit, go live a normal human existence, kind of take a step out of the water, be dry for a little while and see what that's like. And so that summer I got surgery on my left shoulder, just in part of the imbalances caused by the scoliosis. There's just overcompensation, labrum tear, the usual for a swimmer. So I got surgery on that. And during that recovery process, I actually was up in Chico, California, near where your dad, my grandpa, lived, and living with him and working in school gardens with kids, just teaching them about nutrition and gardening and picking up cycling. So just really stepping away from that whole world and doing something completely different and just really reorienting myself. And I got to a point probably about a year after that where I was like, I think I'm ready. I want to give this thing a shot. And funnily enough, I had signed up for my yoga teacher training that fall, and I met a girl there, and she was like, you just go do this thing, give it your all. Let's just really, really positive and encouraging. And like, you're never going to know unless you really just go all in and try. And so I think that was the little key. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give this thing a shot. And so I came back from that, and as a pro, I mean, that's your whole life, right? Like that's the focus, that's the why. Everything kind of revolved around trying to make that Olympic team, and just kind of discovering every single day, right? Like, how far can we go? This is it. This is what you're doing. This is the focus. And so I think that over the span of 3 years leading up to the trials, well, what became 3 years because of COVID, that was really just kind of my my North Star, and everything, all my travel, family vacation, everything just kind of like not revolved around that, but like that was the center point. I was willing to go above and beyond, to make the sacrifices, to go on these trips and do whatever it took, to just kind of put my head down and like, this is it, this is what I'm doing. So I think that was definitely a different mindset than college, where it's like, you still, I don't want to say distractions, but you have all these other parts of life that you're still kind of navigating, and you're being a good teammate, you're being a good friend, and you're doing school and exploring LA and doing all those things. So I think the pro life just kind of like, shortened, I don't want to say shortened, but like made the aperture a little smaller, and was like, okay, this is the center point. This is what, if you're here for, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when I think about persistence through all of that, I think of it in a couple of ways. I mean, there's the persistence in following your dream, like you're saying, like you're just going to go for it and do it. There's also I don't know what the word would be, maybe a daily grind persistence, because I'm sure that training doesn't always feel good, right? So it's really hard, and that can also be how you push yourself forward, is going through those tough moments in training, and so you persist and you stick with it to that. And so I'm curious to know, both for the two-part question. One is for yourself. Where do you think that quality comes from, and what have you learned about yourself? And then the second part that we can come back to is, did you notice any commonalities in the other pro swimmers in terms of that quality of resilience and sticking with it?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it just started at a young age. I think I was just surrounded growing up by role models. I mean, I know I mentioned Walt, your dad, my grandpa, and his journey through his own athletic career, and just seeing, like, he was running marathons into his 60s or something crazy. And he was a D1 runner on scholarship at Michigan. And that was what he did, and he stuck with it. And seeing his journey again, like as a collegiate athlete, and then how he was able to continue and formed community, and kind of like still found meaning in his running, and kept finding kind of that deeper purpose, and pushing himself to just really discover, all that was inside of him. I think that having that as a role model just really helped me see and believe that's like, okay, this isn't just a sport, that there's another layer to it. And maybe, I mean, I'm not thinking this as a 9-year-old probably, but I think like subconsciously that was kind of probably rooted from a very, very early age. And then I will give, like, my coach growing up too, Coach Brian at Osprey, was just amazing at seeing the long game. And again, I think he saw all of us swimmers as people. And I think his heart was in developing and helping us develop as human beings. And so I think the discipline of being able, or the resilience, I guess, of being able to bounce back and get up, fall down 9 times and get up on number 10. And he just really made that a priority, not a priority, but like he really stressed that. And that was a value on the team. It's like, you're going to fall down. You can't be perfect every time. And he allowed that space for that kind of, that failure, for things not to work out. And he always said, it's part of the building blocks. It's like, you're learning, okay, this worked, this didn't work. And so I think that kept the process also interesting, because it always felt like a little bit of an experiment. And it was never like, just this is the way we're going to do it, and you're just going to do this for a bunch of years. It's like, okay, we're trying this for a year. Okay, that didn't really work. How do we adjust? How do we tweak? So it was a very organic process. And I think that's something that I saw as I moved onto the pro level was, yes, I'd say it's eggs. It's still eggs. It's served just a bunch of different ways. Like, everyone was showing up to do the same thing, but had their own little flair to it, and had their own kind of individual process of how they like to get there and how they like to do things. And I think being in that space just kind of added a level of like validation to that, and not in an external way, but just kind of like, okay, I know these are the principles here, here are the kind of the basic building blocks. How can I weave this together for myself in a way? And just seeing how other people were doing that, it's like you're learning, you're growing. And again, it's just kind of this like fun, curious experiment of like, oh, that's working for me this season, but if I try that again next year, that's not quite right. So what are we doing to kind of keep developing and keep growing and learning?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I love that analogy of the eggs and cooking it all the different ways. Like that's a perfect analogy. That's beautiful. Yeah, I really like that. Do you feel now like that has given you that experience and that journey? Do you feel more confident now going into whatever you decide to do, like now with the yoga for swimmers or other ventures that you might be pursuing? Do you have that confidence of like, I know how to stick with something, and it may work, it may not. I might fall down 9 times, but I'm going to keep trying because I know that I can. So do you feel a lasting effect of that journey, of that part of the journey in yourself?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's very much the season that's happening now is, it's almost like kind of like a sculpture, right? It's like you're kind of chiseling away. And I feel like now I've kind of got at least to the essence of who I am. And I think that's a lot of what the whole journey has been about since the time I was 8 years old and starting off. It's kind of figuring out who I am and starting to unpack those layers and figuring out, again, a process that feels really authentic to me and to my being and kind of honors all these different parts of myself. And I think, and I touched on it earlier, I think athletics it's a very like masculine energy. It's a very, very go, very active. And I think the yoga for me kind of brings in this balance of allowing a little bit more feminine, that rest, a little bit more of like a creative, a movement, a flow to things. And so it's been really fun to kind of like balance the both. And I think the more I allow both of those sides of myself to express themselves, the more I do feel grounded and rooted and like I can show up and do anything because I know I've done the work to really get to know myself. And I know that no matter what, I have kind of access to all these parts, or like no matter what happens, like I can show up really fully because I've done the work to figure out, my process and my method to get me there. And I think the persistence over the years of chiseling away at kind of like figuring what that is, like, okay, that doesn't feel right. This does feel right. I'm going to stick with that method. And then staying true to the method. I think that's kind of the season that we're in right now is like, okay, I've kind of discovered all these things. Now, how am I going to do that and live that every single day and stay rooted in integrity and really live with integrity and living out these methods. It's one thing to say it, right? It's another thing to like actually wake up and do the work. So, but just learning how to do that in a different space. And it feels like then when you're staying true to that, that you can show up and that, things are just happening the way they're meant to, and that you're giving your best in any situation. And that's a good feeling no matter where you are to do that. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And what is the response? What response are you getting from swimmers now as you're putting out the yoga for swimmers and USA Swimming is helping to broadcast it? Are you getting feedback from people, and what is that feedback?
Mostly all positive. I would love to hear any constructive criticism as well. Always welcome. But yeah, I think for the most part, pretty positive. Everyone's, we need more of this in the swim world. And, thank you for putting this out. And it keeps me honest and on my toes. Like I want to be sure that I'm sharing things that are truthful. So I want to be sure that I'm doing the research and really getting to the source of, of where things are coming from, to be sure that I'm sharing the most truth and being sure that I'm sharing the right things. But for the most part, yeah, it's been really positive feedback. And again, really interesting to see what sparks interest in the various communities. Like obviously the club swimmers, club coaches are more interested in the performance kind of side of things. So I love speaking to that. With the masters, again, it's just kind of more body awareness. So everyone has their little piece of it that lights them up. And so that's been really fun to be able to share that and just have really good feedback with that all.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting. And do you envision that being mostly available online, or do you think that you'll have workshops and like take it on the road and do retreats or workshops around that with swimmers?
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the vision. For right now, it is just online, but I feel very fortunate to have a couple other girls, and we're actually like international already, which is cool. I mean, one is in California and I have another girl that I'm working with up in Canada. And so we're each kind of working within our own little demographics to bring yoga to the swim communities that we're involved in. Right now, again, we're all spread out, so it is online. we figured that Hawaii is a good center meeting point. And so we're in the works of kind of starting to develop, like you said, kind of these specialty workshops, long weekends, hopefully moving into more camps and retreats to be able to bring people, again, any demographic, we'll kind of be able to pitch to all of them and have people come and experience both yoga and swimming on just like a pretty deep level. So that's the vision, you know, kind of just starting one bit at a time. But that's something like what you're asking before. I think that's something that swimming has helped me with. You know, you have the Olympic dream, and it's like, okay, that's an 8-year down the line kind of goal when you're, you know, a teenager. And so now I'm able to, okay, that's the goal for, you know, a couple years down the line. We don't need to be there yet. Let's tune back, you know, kind of step it back. That's there, but what do we need to do now? What's important to start to, what's the strategy in how to get there? So I think in that regards, yeah, I definitely have the ability to be able to goal set and know that it's a process in getting there.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I think Hawaii is a great choice because who would want to go to Hawaii?
Exactly.
Right? That's a great, yes. I think that's fantastic. And now you've done some coaching with kids when you were in Hawaii. Can you talk a little bit about that program that you were involved with, and how did that impact you to coach underserved children regarding swimming?
Yeah, so I was working with a swim company there and basically developed a program to help these kids who had never learned how to swim. And they were, I think, mostly middle school age, maybe fourth grade to middle school. And again, being on Oahu, being on an island, we are like surrounded by water in every direction. And these kids just like never learned how to swim. And so I developed a program to be able to teach the basics, you know, a little bit of like water safety, basic, being able to survive kind of thing. And we stuck with the pool. We did I think it was a 4-week program, 4 or 5 weeks of just a couple hours in the pool every single week. But the way that these kids just would light up and they would get so excited and like, oh, like miss, look what I can do. And to see that flip of being, you know, grabbing the wall and just being so timid, to be able to have the space and just really like provide the support for something that I don't remember having to learn, right? Like my parents did water babies. I was thrown in the water as like a 4-month-old or whatever, you know. I don't remember what it was like to be scared of the water and to not know how to swim. So figuring out how to get into that mindset of like, wow, how would this feel to, you know, be in this body of water that like you feel like is going to kill you, and then to be able to provide the support and the space for them to start to relax into it. Because I think that's the biggest thing that I saw is like, you know, with anything, you tense, you tighten, you're done, you know, the water's going to win. And so figuring out how to relax into the water, actually, you know, you float and you're supported. So that was an interesting challenge for me to be able to step back into that space of like, okay, how do we get these kids comfortable enough? But the second they felt supported, the second they felt safe, you know, they just took off. And at the end of those 5 weeks, we brought them out into this little lagoon, pretty protected. But sometimes there's a little reef out there in Ala Moana. And so to see these kids who 3 weeks before like would not put their head underwater, right? Or they would like put their face in and like kind of freak out a little bit. And now they're diving down and they're like, oh my God, I saw this fish. And like, there's a sea cucumber, come feel it. And just to see that whole world open up for them really reminded me too, that's like, wow, that's something that, you know, you kind of take for granted, the skill of swimming. It's not even like on the competitive level, but just being able to jump into the water in Hawaii, go for this long swim, you know, out to these kind of remote reefs and out to these remote places, like that's a skill, and that's a whole world that is now, you know, opened up to these kids or to these people once they kind of learn that skill set. And so that made me a little bit more appreciative, one, of having that skill, but two, just like interested in helping people be able to experience that and just like experience the water and kind of like get into that world. And so I love working with kids and adults too. I had plenty of adults that I was working with when I was out in Hawaii. Again, totally terrified of the water, and how can we start to develop that relationship and just kind of like let yourself enjoy and experience this whole new way.
Wow, that is I think that's just beautiful, because that's life changing for all of those people
Yeah.
at any age, and I agree with you. I don't know what that feeling is either, to be terrified of the water, unless I'm looking at like a class 5 rapid on the Colorado River. I'm scared, but otherwise I don't know that feeling of being afraid. And so that's a really, kudos to you and to the
Yeah.
program for doing that. That's life changing for them.
Yeah. It was really fun to be part of.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Do you see yourself going into coaching along with the yoga program? Or I know that you've done some coaching at all levels, including collegiate. Is that an area that you're interested in?
I think just having kind of high touch points with the programs, like with collegiate or with club. I think, again, this is just right now, I feel really drawn to doing more of the kind of individual and working with people on like a really deep level. And so I think, but being able to go and have, again, like those high touch points, being able to go and kind of like help the teams develop the program and share the yoga with them would be a dream. And I think with that, yeah, it's just kind of working in multiple settings within that. Just sounds really, that sounds interesting to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you find that the swim community is pretty similar wherever you are in the world? I mean, now you're in Australia, you were in Hawaii for a while, you grew up in California. Do you find commonalities in the community, or do they each have their own personalities?
No, I think everyone has their personality to it, and yeah, and I think being able to, again, I think that's part of the experience of being able to come into these different spaces and just kind of like observe and be part of that personality of the culture of a given group. And I think that changes like team to team even, but even in my experience with like open water swimming, like each crew kind of has like a different vibe to it and has a different feel. And so that's kind of part of the fun. It's like, yeah, there's this commonality, and you're going to go out there and you're going to put your head down and be in your own world, but at least you're kind of, you're together. But I think there's definitely like a different vibe and a different feel depending where you are. So yeah, I've definitely noticed a difference.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Well, before we wrap up, I want to ask you to tell people how they can connect with you. And also, if someone is not a competitive swimmer, or they're not a master swimmer, maybe they just jump in the pool periodically, is your program still for them? Like, would you say it's yoga for swimmers, but it's also yoga for anybody?
Yes. Yes, yeah. And that's what I kind of had this moment the other week where I was like, I think we're all swimmers, whether or not you identify as one yet. Like deep down in our roots, like we are water beings, and there's something about like we are drawn to the water for a reason. So yes, I think the page is up there, the Yoga Swim Flow. That's kind of the collaborative platform that I have with the other girls right now, and we're working on developing out a website to be able to showcase kind of those workshops. But yeah, Instagram for right now is definitely the best way to contact me on social media, and until we get the website up and running.
All right, that's great. Well, this has been so interesting, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to come and tell us about your journey and about your program. So really be excited to see where it takes you.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for having me and thanking me on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, thanks. Well, that was so interesting. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, and it's fun to get to really dig into something like that. I always end every show with a quote about persistence. And so the one that I'll end with today is from Khaled, which is, positivity, confidence, and persistence are key in life. So never give up on yourself. And I think that's part of what Linnea was talking about sticking with herself and what her journey is and how she's evolving. And so I really, it's funny, when I pick the quote, I never know exactly how it's going to fit. And I think this one fits perfectly. You can reach me through the Ring Thing, ringthing.com, and the Instagram page is @ring_thing. I'm available anytime, and the Persistence Payoff Show is on USA Global TV and Radio every other Tuesday at 12 o'clock Pacific time, and is available for viewing anytime on YouTube. So thank you so much to USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacqueline Kerbick for giving us the platform. Thanks, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Ever dreamed of hosting your own TV show, sharing your story with a global audience? Now's your chance to shine. At USA Global TV and Radio, we make it easy for you to create, host, and broadcast your very own TV show. Whether you're a storyteller, entrepreneur, or industry expert, we help you bring your vision to life. With our exclusive interview, live streaming, and podcasting training, you'll gain the skills and confidence to captivate your audience. Our global platform ensures your voice is heard worldwide. Join our community of creators who are already making an impact, one show at a time. Step into the spotlight. Host your own TV show on USA Global TV and Radio. Book your discovery call today at usaglobaltv.com. Copyright 2025 USA Global TV and Radio. All rights reserved. Terms and conditions apply. To learn more, visit usaglobaltv.com. Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honored to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.